Gerald and Hale, and there's obviously something that you all don't know about Gerald. We're just a family that lived in Maplewood South, and when the JCC opened, we joined. And when we went to sign our 4 kids up for classes, we were told that the gymnastics instructor was very good, and that the classes were $2 a semester. And when you have 4 kids, that sounds pretty good. And so, of course, the kids got involved, and I had 3 that worked for the C team, they made the C team. Worked for the B team, they made the B team. Then I had that one that's sitting back there. She was only 4 at the time, and she was in a class that mothers were there. And one day when all of the mothers had left, it was just Jeannie and myself and Gerald. Coach asked, he said, you know, you're out here all the time. If you would come up and keep on the team, he said, if you just keep those 6 to 8-year-olds out of my hair, I'd be happy to pay you. And anything you want to learn to spot, I teach you to spot. And that's how I got involved in women's gymnastics. Well, he did develop his 10 to 12-year-olds, and we went to a meet at Jacinto College, and there were 2 girls competing from Post Oak YMCA, and both of their mothers were judging. And remember both? Yeah, our girls were good. They were, you know, they weren't illegal, but they were darn good gymnasts. They were better than the girls from Post Oak, but the girls from Post Oak won. And I thought, this is not right. You know, this is not fair. This is not just. And so I talked to Coach, and he said, I don't know, call the USGA. Complain to them. And so I did, and they got us, and you need to get in touch with Darlene Darsh. She's our national judging director. And so I did, and she said that she would be happy to come to Houston and give a judging clinic. And she did. I invited, it's a little hard to get mothers to go to that, but we got a few mothers to go to that. And the 2 mothers from Post Oak scored local, and I scored regional. and to make a long story a lot shorter and not bore you quite so badly, I became Texas' first national and first elite level judge. And that would not have happened had it not been for Gerald. So you can blame if you get bad women judging. It's not my doing. It's Coach's. Thank you.
All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I know some of y'all. I know some of y'all by reputation, but we haven't met. And there's some folks that I don't know at all. My name is Danelle Pecht. I work at the JCC. I have taken over that Flying Fossils adult class that Gerald used to coach. And I have so personally, like, I am young enough, as you can probably tell from looking at me, that my first, like, interaction with Gerald was not with him as a person. I grew up out in Katy, going to Katy Kips, speaking of which, Louis sends his regards. He wasn't able to be here today because of South State. But, you know, Gerald did all of this amazing art that was all over the place back in the 90s when I was growing up, and I saw it all the time. And then after I met him, I was like, wow, I recognize these pieces. I've seen them, you know, in magazines, on posters, all that kind of stuff. So that is, first of all, really cool. But what brought me to the JCC eventually was after I came back to the sport of gymnastics after graduating college, and started taking our adult class that we had out there in Katy, and then started coaching. And I decided I needed 1 more day a week of class to kind of accomplish what my goals were to accomplish. And I came in here and started taking gymnastics of the day because that was the next closest adult class in the city of Houston, from all the way out in Katy into Meyerland, quite a drive. So I met Gerald at that point, and I also met, some people who have become some of my closest friends in life. Pablo over here, for example, is one of them. He is a longtime member of our adult class, kind of the one that I make part of our welcome committee every time a new person shows up, because he's very naturally friendly with everyone. But the thing that kind of got me about Gerald was just the connection that he had to everything gymnastics related in Houston and in the state of Texas. Just now you've heard about people who are Olympic coaches who have a connection to him. You've heard about people who are, have their own gyms, or they're working with little kids, they're national judges, all sorts of different things within the sport. But some of the stories he told were also working with the first astronauts in Houston back in the 60s, when they were learning how to exist in an environment that didn't have gravity, you didn't have a sense of which way is up and which way is down. They brought them down to the gymnastics center to do gymnastics, do rolls, bounce on trampolines, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure many of you know, but nobody's brought it up yet, he always loved to boast about Patrick Swayze having been one of his star students back in the day. And so, if you're playing 6 degrees of separation, that's a pretty quick link to everybody in Hollywood for you. So, it has been just, for the short amount of time that I did get to know him, just a wonderful window into so many different parts of the gymnastics world, the history of Houston as a city, all that different stuff, and just an amazing man to know and to have in my life. I wish it could have been longer.
I'm going to ask people, when you come up here, be real careful of these cords too. We meant to tape them down, but I don't have any duct tape back here. Different step. This is Lynn Kelly and her son Bill.
Everyone's heard about Coach working with special needs children. Bill started with Coach when he was 4 years old. Bill's 28. And, many children came and went and were touched. But we couldn't leave. We couldn't get enough of Coach. And he taught, what all did he teach you, Bill? What did he tell me?
The skinny cat, red turns, jump into doggy tummy.
Where's Coach now, Bill?
He's in heaven.
Yes, and we miss him, and we think of him all the time because he's still with us, and he's touched our whole family. And we also want to thank the JCC who coached him, who we're still a participant in gymnastics every Sunday. So for 25 years, it's a huge part of our lives. Thank you all.
Howdy, my name is JB. I figured I'd talk for the Flying Apostles. You've heard it a few times, so one of us got to get up there. But I started, my gymnastics started when I was 11, going to Byron's Gymnastics, and then, after that I didn't really have a gymnastics place. Got married, had kids, and then got signed up through the leisure learning ad for the adult gymnastics class, and I was like, what did you sign me up for? Like, what is adult gymnastics? I imagined it was going to be like sit and be fit, they go, no, like adult gymnastics. And I get there, and it's a full-fledged gym, and I was at 11-year-old kid again, and it was the fact that he did that out of his heart to provide a place for folks like us to be back in a gym. He got us to do things that grown adults would not do in public anywhere, like, grown men skipping and glissading and whatever else they could ask us to do. But there was one time that I got to go that I happened to be the only student that showed up that day. And so he's like, well, what do you want to do? You want to get on the P-bars? What do you want to do? And I got to see what an incredible actual coach. He would get us to do things as adults, but then to get to work one-on-one with him and have a guy in the twilight of their gymnastics, way past any kind of performing, increase their skill level in one class in things. So I was so thankful that I got to see that one-on-one and experience that with him. I didn't have a lot of form. I remember one time going down the tumble track, and after my pass, he said, you look like a sculptor without clay. I guess my arms were I don't know if that was a compliment on being from one artist to another, but on the less clean side, I remember once after getting a lot of air on the tumble track, he said, wow, you really know how to ride a tramp. That was just his sense of humor. But I think stretching and warm-ups, two things that always showed up in his jokes were the Eskimo fisherman and the Montrose wave, which if anyone ever took his class, was, we should probably do a Montrose wave for coach. But anyway, it meant so much to me to be able to be back in the gym, and without his heart for the sport and for the people, we wouldn't have had that opportunity. So thanks, Coach.
Always have to lower microphones. Hi everyone, I'm Pablo. Danelle was introducing me earlier. And I had the privilege of tumbling with Coach for several years with the Flying Fossils. And there were some days when we had maybe 14 or 15 people in class, sometimes 20. Sometimes it was just he and I. And I loved listening to Coach talk about art and music because I'm a professional musician here in town. And I've been teaching in Spring Branch for 28 years. And I hope it doesn't look as though I've been teaching that long. But I loved listening to the course because he would talk about the business aspect of being an artist, and you could tell that he loved music. I mean, look at his artwork. The harmony in it, the symmetry, the richness, the details, and the openness to interpretation on some level. And I just really loved listening to how he could connect with each one of us. And I remember the first time I went to the coach's class. It actually was not at the JCC. It was actually at HGA when they were in a warehouse somewhere. I don't remember where. And my friend Brian, who's also a professional musician in town, he took me to this class. And afterwards, I was like, "Give me a moment." And I walked outside and threw up. Because it'll do that to you. And now I remember why. Coach had a couple rules. Rule number 1: don't die. Rule number 2: don't eat Mexican food. And that first class, I think I did. And I just had a blast tumbling with Coach because he believed in me, and sometimes I modeled things for him. I remember he would take pictures so that he could eventually paint something. I don't think he ever did. But he always talked about how we should be our best coaches and how we are. We shouldn't just be, but we are our best coaches. And throughout life, a lot of us have been beat up through this, that, and the other, and lots of different things that happen to us in our world. And it's just really great to keep that in mind. And he did it with such joy. He believed in us. He gave us parameters on what you can do safely. But I always take that with me to remember that I'm my best coach. And so are you guys. So thank you for believing in us, Coach. We'll miss you, and we'll see you again.
Thanks everyone for sharing those awesome, incredible memories from so many different facets of our wonderful sport and community. Hey, we've got about a half hour here. Feel free to mingle, eat some more food. Thank you all who came up. Let's take some pictures, and that'll be great. So let us take some pictures. Thank you all very much.